Hi, folks. Welcome in. I'm going to encourage everyone joining today to grab all of the supportive materials. If you're choosing this class from the library, you know we're going to be practicing a Yin and Restorative style practice today. So if you have bolsters, pillows, cushions, blankets, blocks, all the things, you can definitely get creative with the supplies you've got around your house too. But you will want tools and supplies to prop yourself up. We'll be moving really, really slow and intentionally today as a practice to usher in the year ahead. Or if you're watching this at a different time of the year, this is a really great practice for um, developing focus during transitional moments. So grab your stuff. If you'd like to put on some really gentle music that works well for your practice, you're welcome to do that. And then go ahead and get set up on your mat. So in today's practice, we'll actually start resting down onto the floor in Shavasana. I'm going to stay here in a seat because I'll be sharing some little tidbits of information and wisdom with you, but you can go ahead and settle all the way down onto the mat, lying down with your legs extended. If it's more comfortable for your low back, you're welcome to have your knees bent or certainly any support underneath your knees as well. Settle in, soften down, and start to notice the movement of your breath, your natural breath. No need to force or shift it. And as you settle there, just a sweet reminder of one of the many, so many superpowers of yogasana practice. And this postural practice, this gift is to be a really powerful support in regaining a sense of calm and equanimity. So I know for those that are joining in real time or very shortly after this recording, this funny time mid holidays can feel a little disorienting, not knowing what time, what day it is, what date it is. Um, there's usually a lot of events. Maybe we're really out of our routine. So, offering to all of you this gift to settle back into balance and calm as we prepare to usher in a new cycle, a new year. We can choose postures that will slow us down and open up our body through slightly longer holds. So we'll focus on yin and a little bit of slightly restorative postures in today's practice. My invitation to each of you as we move through this practice today, and as we enjoy these last few moments before a new year begins, is not to rush through. Don't rush through the practice. Don't rush through the days. When we take time to slow down, we come back to the quiet that is within our own hearts. The heart is always there waiting to guide us back home, but we do have to get quiet enough to listen in. Allow this practice to serve as a moment to recharge, recenter, and fueled by a remembrance of our own heart's message, our own inner power. Might we rediscover that space for stillness within? So, in the next few breaths, you can start to really gently bring movement to your shavasana. That could look like teeny tiny little wiggles with your fingers and toes. For some, it might look like a bigger stretch. Maybe you take your arms up and back overhead. And then in the next breath or two, go ahead and hug your right knee up and in towards your heart. And once you have it hugged there, you can roll some circles with your ankle in one direction and the other. And then offer your hip a little bit of smooth circular movements. And remember, our effort is not to rush through, just as we want to be present in these last few days of the year, as disorienting as it may feel. We want to be slow, intentional, and present with all that is. Let's bring that onto the mat. So both directions if you haven't already. And then go ahead and offer your right knee, shin, ankle, foot across your body. We're coming toward a reclined and hopefully supported. So I will take my bolster underneath both knee and ankle. Important that both joints are supported here so that the nervous system could say, "Ah, okay, I'm safe," right? If this doesn't feel like enough edge for you, you are welcome to lower that down. You could bring a block underneath knee and ankle at a lower level, or you might be landing knee and ankle down onto the floor. Once you have found that, you might take your arms out wide from your shoulders, or if you want to bring a little sensation, so long as it's mindful, it doesn't feel like too much of an edge, into your shoulder girdle. You can take your right arm up and back overhead and left arm out wide from your shoulder. So it's more of an L shape in the upper body. You might try that on and it's not a sensation you like. You can reassess, settle and resettle, and just come into a seat so I can keep an eye on the time. I don't want to keep you frozen there too long, but we will be here for a full 3.5 minutes. So landed there. Take the time. I always like to visualize kind of like silt or sediment settling in a pond. And if you open your eyes under the water, it looks kind of like a murky snowstorm under there once we've moved things around and shifted a little. And then we have to be very, very still for all of that to settle in order for clarity to come back in to our picture, to our vision. This is the challenge and the gift of yin, is this challenge of stillness so that we can come back to that quiet that's within our own heart. You're still kind of wiggling and fidgeting and finding the form that feels just right. I would encourage you to take one last breath or two and then settle into something that feels good enough that you can stay. So we're about 1 minute in. And at this time of year, many people like to assess the year behind them, look forward to what comes next. Lots of folks are working with resolutions. And I'd like to offer you an alternative to that if that feels challenging for you in some way. A resolution can really feel like just another should, another to do on the list, or a life full of shoulds and need to get tos. So, the demand for more effort when the world already seems to require so much of us. So, as a gesture toward ahimsa, nonviolence, looking for um, a, a peace and a grace toward ourselves, I would offer you a way to look into this new year ahead with a little bit more ease. As we set our gaze forward, we can think more about resolve, about clarity. Just like when holding a challenging balance posture, we need a drishti, a point that is steady and clear to set our gaze upon. And some drishtis are internal, So as we move through this transition, I urge you to find an inner focal point that you can anchor onto. Maybe it's your heart. Maybe it's a particular word or image. One that helps you anchor back into a stillness, a fortitude, a strength and resolve. Take 3 last breaths without moving a muscle. And then with your following inhale, you can very slowly bring yourself back towards center. Give your right knee a squeeze once again, maybe ankle or hip movement feels good for a second round. And as you're ready, settle all the way back onto the earth for Shavasana once again, only for a brief moment as we assess and observe. Notice right side body and left side body. Give yourself time to honor this space in between as we move from one form into the next. Might we also honor the space between forms? And then in your next breath or two, go ahead and draw your left knee up and in towards your heart. So same movements, keep them gentle, smooth, intentional. A little roll with your left ankle in one direction and in the other direction. Take that movement to your hip, not trying to force, just offering in a little gentle hello, good morning. Move in the opposite direction if you have not already. And then coming all the way back towards your heart center, you can help guide your left knee across midline this time, all the way on over towards your reclined twist. So if you're working with bolster, again, that comes underneath both knee and ankle or your blocks. Some might settle down to the floor if you want a little more edge or sensation, right? Find something that feels sustainable, just a 3.5 minute hold on this one. And then remember, arms can come out wide like a T, or in this side, left arm might reach up and overhead if you want to bring the shoulder girdle, a little bit of edge and sensation into the mix here with the left shoulder. L shape or wide T. Take your time to wiggle out all the wiggles. Settle on down. If that imagery of the silt settling at the bottom of a pond is helpful, I urge you to take a few breaths with that until you get the vision that's a little bit more clear, a little more clarity in that water. The mind is very active. Remember, you can anchor on to your breath. You can zoom your awareness into your heart. We're offering this year that instead of setting a resolution of sorts, we set a drishti, a focal point, a drishti of sorts, deciding what we want to spend our time looking at rather than declaring what we must do or what we must change. A little bit of a shift. Where do I prefer to set my focus? What are the things that I truly want to hone in on? what will offer me the greatest steadiness, the greatest clarity. We're about a minute and a half in on this second side. Again, if you're still reconfiguring your form, I urge you to settle into stillness for these final few minutes. Just a little over a minute left here. So, last invitation to adjust to come to the edge that best serves you. And this new kind of resolving that I'm encouraging you to explore, we're allowing ourselves to look at what was perhaps not clear and inviting it to come into focus. So this is a little bit more of a receptive, a softer way that we might allow ourselves to look ahead. For these sorts of resolutions to happen, all we have to do is set our gazing point and keep looking there with sustained and calm interest. And then wait for what is already present to reveal its true form. Take 3 last breaths in the sweetness of this still form. And then with the inhale that follows, you can help guide your left foot, shin, ankle, all the way back towards center. Perhaps again, give it a squeeze in. And then settle both legs down, allowing yourself a moment where the silt might settle, the sediment might settle. Focus your inner gaze and observe anything that is there. And then transition up toward a seat. That could look like hugging both knees in and taking a rock up and down your spine toward a seat. It could look like rolling to one side and pressing yourself up. They'll meet you there. You can either roll up and over feet and ankles or sweep them to one side. My current practice space has carpet underneath the mat, so it's pretty cushiony for me. However, if you are in a space with a firmer floor, ceramic or wood, you might want to take your blanket underneath your knees for this next one. You can unroll it across your mat. Perhaps if working with books or blocks, you might want those available toward the top edge of your mat as an option. I'll show you several variations. And then you can bring your hips up to stack above your knees. So Anahatasana, the melting heart pose, we call it in Yin, will be our next form. Toes can be tucked under or untucked behind you. And then keep your hips stacked high above your knees, but walk your fingertips forward. So this is kind of option A. The heart lowers down, but your hips stay high. You can rest to your chin. So I'm not sure if you can see much here, but my gaze is looking forward to the top edge of the mat. You can also rest your third eye point. So the gaze is heading down. For those that might want a little something different, this is where the blocks could come in handy, either here, right? Arms can be outstretched. So this is going to really ramp up the edge sensation, the underside of the arm, these heart and lung lines, or also supporting those lines. You can slide your blocks back and land elbows here, right? And dive on down. In this one, the thumbs come toward the base of your cervical spine, hands like Anjali, but hips stay high. So regardless of variation. And then lastly, if anyone wants a little bit more of a restorative variation, if that's just your vibe today, maybe that's your drishti, your focal point in the upcoming year, you want more comfort in these, you can also take this on with a bolster. Hips still stay high, but the heart is a little bit more supported. Okay, so I'm going to give all of those variations a check-in at about the halfway mark. And again, we'll be here for 3 minutes. We'll settle into the variation that works best for you. It's optional to close your eyes. So you can look for that inner drishti. However, certainly if it feels safer for you and your eyes are open, I urge you to settle in on an external drishti, but one that is unmoving, gentle, soft, one that anchors you in a feeling of calmness that allows you to make peace with stillness. Set your drishti and then keep looking with sustained interest and wait. Again, a much more receptive way to look forward into the future versus adding onto the list of to-dos with a resolution. What is available for me to see? What might become more clear? And a smooth and even breath. If you have not settled there already, really lock in on stillness. Just about 1 minute left here. If you're resting on just one ear or the other, make sure you swap to the opposite side. And one last breath. Okay. So all expressions, supported or unsupported, you can start to lean your weight forward, slide any equipment you may have off to the side, and rest all the way down onto the earth. You can crisscross your forearms. Rest your chin, third eye, one ear or the other, whatever's most comfortable. Cover your toes and take a really slow and mindful wave, like windshield wipers, from side to side. And then settle on back towards center. So for this next one, I'll show the alternative first because I'm already belly down. Um, we'll go into saddle or a variation thereof. So for a lot of folks, saddle doesn't work for a variety of reasons, hips, ankles, knees, back, any of the above, right? And so I'd like to offer something down on the belly as an alternative. And the first is to rest right back as you were with the toes hovering. So for some folks, this is quite enough for sensation across the front of the hips, right into the quads. This is kind of the target area, you could say, to the psoas, even low abdomen. If you're feeling sensation there, this will work for you. It could even mean bringing the bolster between knees and calves, right? If that's too much sensation. So this is a little bitty extension, right? You could also stay down onto the belly and come up to something more like Sphinx, perhaps with support, right? So it could be here and with the toes hovering so that we're getting across the tops of the quads, okay? So these are both two beautiful alternative options for our saddle pose. For those that know saddle, that enjoy saddle, you are going to go ahead and come on up and we'll get set up. Again, you can cushion your knees if your floor in your practice space is a little bit more hard, not quite as soft. And then settle down towards your heels, perhaps between your heels. That's what my saddle looks like, but certainly some folks like the feet wide, angled out or angled in. And then begin to lean your weight back. So you're welcome to bring in blocks, bolsters. I mean, I'd like to say if you want a softer variation, but even with the bolster, for most people, this is quite sensation intense. It's working out a foot cramp that I'm having on this side. So you might start to lean back and rest onto a bolster. You could stay up here on elbows or forearms. Some folks might want to come all the way to the earth, and some folks like to reach the arms up and back overhead, whether supported or unsupported. Okay, so we've given lots and lots of options. So I'm going to give you space for quiet now, but we will settle in here for 4 minutes. So really important in yin that you're assessing your own edge, your own sensation, and ensuring that you've landed in something that is sustainable. So 4 minutes here. If it's feeling like an excruciating edge after 4 breaths, 4 minutes is going to be way too much. So back it up or choose an alternative. Start to smooth your breath. Notice where your focal point is. External if eyes are open. Internal if gaze is closed. And you're just about at the 1 minute mark. So if still settling and resettling, this is your invitation to drop into a still point. Just about midway there, you might notice where your mind wants to wander to. This is going into a new cycle of anything, especially a new year, a new calendar year is a really great opportunity to be a beginner, to start new, return to beginner's mind. Might re-access or re-relate to aspects of the yoga practice that perhaps we've taken for granted. Something so simple like a focal point, a drishti. Oftentimes in training our gaze, our vision changes. What we're looking at doesn't necessarily change, but we change. What comes to focus as a result of extended practice of drishti is something we'll begin to see much more easily, more often. Like when you learn the name of a new bird and then all of a sudden you hear it all the time or you see it all the time. Like the eyes change, what we see changes. Last minute here, so final invitation for any adjustment or shift so that your edge might be more sustainable. Three final breaths. And then all expressions begin to come out. So if you're in the belly down, if you're in this kind of prone expression of it, you can slide your hands in underneath your shoulders, lower your toes down, and press back towards your knees. If you're resting on your back, you're in the supine variation, you can start to slowly press up from hands, forearms, all the way on up, slowly. And then slide your knees and feet in underneath your hips. You're welcome to prop up on a bolster or a few blocks, or certainly sneak your feet around to the front if that's more forgiving, more comfortable. Take a pause in a neutral spine. So lift all the way up through the crown of your head. Imagine you're just like periscoping your spine upward to the sky, giving time and space for something that's a little bit more neutral, for those soft and squishy discs we have between each vertebra. A few smooth and focused breaths. And then go ahead and lower yourself down if you're propped up. You'll want pillow, blanket blocks, or books for this next one. You can leave your right shin toward the front of your mat and come on back to the big toe edge of your left foot. So my left foot is kind of angling out. You can see back there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this option or this setup, and you're welcome to come down off of the props or not to include the props at all if you want a little more of an edge. So I'm going to give the more restorative variation. Okay, so my left foot is going to prop up on this block, and then I'm going to take my blanket and rest it between my right foot and left knee. Feels a little bit while I'm upright. It feels a little funky while I'm upright. But when I come to recline, it's going to feel really nice and a little bit more neutral. And then I'll take my bolster or pillow directly out from my right hip. And then it's a revolution, right? I'm going to revolve. It's a spinal twist. Come on over to frame your pillow or your bolster and rest all the way down. Land to your right ear. We're coming now to a more restorative flavor in the practice for a deer pose, which means we'll hang out here for 5 full minutes. Just a quick time check. Let your head rest fully, supported by the pillow, bolster, or if you're down to the earth, all the way down to the earth. Allow yourself some time to settle in, work out the wiggles and fidgets until stillness feels like a very natural place to come and land. In a very soft final twist. We counter those extensions. Henry David Thoreau said that just like a single footstep will not make a clear path on the earth, so a single thought will not make a strong pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path, we must walk again and again and again the same pathway. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over and over the kinds of thoughts we wish to have dominate our lives. So we can't just wish and hope and dream and pray on one day of the year that magic might occur in the upcoming year. But we can take sovereignty over our experience and really look for clarity and come back to that through the practice of silence over and over and over. And if you notice your mind wandering, if you're floating away from that focused point, that drishti, just a reminder to find your anchor and come back. Just a little over 1 minute left on this side. Take 3 more breaths without hurry, staying deliciously present in this final moment of stillness. With your inhale that follows, and without hurry, begin to invite yourself upward, spinning slowly towards center. Once again, you can help guide your left foot and shin around to the front. And staying very focused and mindful in your movements. Swap your setup over to the second side. So your bolster will extend now from your left hip. You'll come to rest back on the big toe edge of your right foot. Perhaps if you liked that supported variation, a block comes under your right foot and the blanket comes between left foot and right knee. And let's go ahead and transition to the second side. So rotate on over to frame your bolster or your pillow. And then go ahead and come all the way down. This time you'll rest on your left ear. So gaze stays forward for deer pose. Remember, we settle in for 5 full minutes on the second side. So give yourself plenty of time and space for that
settling and resettling, that drift of the sediment toward the bottom of the pond. So that you might invite in a deeper stillness. You give yourself the time and space to create the comforts needed. Times that feel murky, confusing, unsettling are the best times, the most appropriate times to hone in on our focal points, on our drishti. Notice what resolves before your very eyes once you train your mental gaze on the spot of your own choosing. About halfway through on this second side, I'm just offering that as a landmark, a check-in point. So you can reassess, come back to softly focused clarity, stillness, if the mind is wandering. And settle in on 3 final breaths. And again, just really soaking in the sweet stillness for this final moment on the second side. And then go ahead and begin to press up. Again, moving around toward a nice tall seat. You can help guide your right shin and foot toward the front if Sukhasana, an easy seat, is comfortable. Take a pause here at a neutral spine, looking for that lift, as if the weight of your head was very light and soft, just floating at the very top of your neck spine. And then offer yourself in some really gentle circular movements in one direction, full body, slow circles. Reverse the direction. Come on back towards center. So I'll take a moment before we come down to the earth for this next one to show what's happening in the upper body from a seat, because I know it's a little bit hard to see once I'm lying down. So we'll come to lie belly down on the mat, and the arms will come out wide like a T. And I'll guide you to slide in, I'll let you know which side, one of the arms up onto your fingertips. So once you're pressing the earth away through the fingertips, you'll roll your whole body right on over to your shoulder. But that opposite arm that's out long stays out long with your palm facing down. So this is one last really great shape for really getting into that heart space and across the front of the chest. So it's kind of a softer heart opener. Certainly, anyone that's got shoulder stuff going on, you can explore with the position. You might lower your arm down. So maybe it's not right up level with your shoulder. You could lower it down. You could try cactus arm as well. So find something that fits for you. Okay, so let's come on down, belly down onto the earth. Back up my mat a little bit so I've got space for this. And once you land there, both arms are coming out wide like a T. And then slide up onto your right fingertips. So right fingertips are pressing into the earth just below your right shoulder. And then press the earth away. As you do that, you'll roll right on over to your left shoulder. The left palm is facing down onto the earth. Rest your head to the earth or onto a blanket. You can come back onto your right foot like a kickstand if you'd like to. Your right arm might rest draped across your low back, or for balance, you're very welcome to leave it resting here. Only 2 minutes for this one. It's a shorter hold, it's a deeper sensation for lots of folks. So rest your head down, soften your breath, focus your inner gaze, and be still. One more minute. And last 2 breaths. And very gently start to lower the front points of both shoulders on down. If you're not already there, you can extend both legs out long as you come to rest back to the earth. Settle back in. Wingspan comes out wide once again from your shoulders. And then come on up to your left fingertips. So left fingertips press into the earth underneath your left shoulder. Left elbow is hugged in toward your ribs. Press the earth away as you do that. You roll on over atop your right shoulder. So remember, you have this kickstand option if you'd like. You can leave your legs extended long. Rest your right ear down to the earth. And left arm either drapes along your low back, or you can keep your left hand resting just in front of your heart if you prefer. Just 2 minutes here. Smooth and even breath, focused heart, focused mind. Just under a minute left on the second side. Recalibrate to stillness if you've wandered. Three more breaths. And then gently roll your way back down, heart toward the earth. Lengthen out both legs. And slide your palms in underneath your shoulders. And press up without hurry across the tops of your knees. And take a seat back toward your heels for just a breath. We're not going to hold it for very long. A balasana, child's pose. Let your shoulders, elbows, and wrists be soft. And then go ahead and slide up toward a tall seat. Okay, one last shape, brief shape before Shavasana, or this might be the Shavasana for you today, if you'd like. We're going to come into a supported and prone variation. So pillow, a rolled blanket works well as well, or of course bolster across the short length of your mat. Leave enough space above the bolster for your whole torso to rest. And then come to lean your weight forward. Rest your hips across the bolster so that your hips are just very slightly elevated. And then untuck your toes and rest your arms down along either side. You can rest to one ear. I'll let you know when we're about midway through so that any sensation in those neck support muscles are evened out. Prone, Shavasana, offering a little bit of space for the low back after the few extensions we did do today for the heart. Rest all the way down. Of course, if it's more comfortable without pillow or bolster and you like a more straight up prone Shavasana, you're welcome to check that out as well. And I'll let you know when we're halfway through. You can go ahead and swap to the opposite ear if you're resting onto one side or the other as we snuggle in for final few moments here. And then, if this feels like a really cozy place for you to settle in and seal our practice, I encourage you to stay. However, if anyone would like more traditional Shavasana with the most minimal effort possible, you can take a roll over. You can slide back towards your knees, perhaps slide the bolster out from underneath you, and take a roll over onto your back. Some folks like to finish practice in a seated meditation. That is also an invitation for those that would like to land there. We'll come together in a point that feels like rest and integration, either Shavasana, a quiet seat, or remaining exactly as you are in your prone Shavasana. Offering as we move into the year ahead a new definition of resolve or resolving, to turn into a different form when seen more clearly, like when the glints across the surface of water becomes clear that it's a wide open ocean. When an object begins to distinguish itself more clearly from the muddle, something that was not clear comes into focus. Again, returning to a softer place, a place of receptivity as we come to the end of one cycle and the beginning of a new one. I encourage you to sit with this newfound relationship with Drishti. Might it strengthen your resolve in times of transition? Might it bring you focus and clarity that is soft and receptive? Begin to watch the movements of your breath now. As you watch your breath, notice how very subtle shifts in your physical form follow. And you can Remain in that quiet space of observation for a few more cycles of breath. And then allow that gentle movement that's created through your breath to trickle out into the rest of your form, little wiggles with your fingers. If resting back in Shavasana, you can rock your head from side to side, or if in prone Shavasana, you might float your feet and windshield wiper your shins. And then all forms, take a stretch back toward child's pose, or if in Shavasana, arms up and overhead as a gentle call toward reawakening, realigning, recommuning. We'll make our way toward a seat where we can come together to seal the practice for the day. And as you land towards your final seat, I urge you to find a gesture that feels authentic for you. So some like to come toward Anjali or prayer hands at the heart. You can certainly find any alternative that feels true for you. And if you'd like, rest your head down low as a quiet bow in toward that Drishti, the quiet heart center, quiet within our own heart where it's always there, it's always available, it's always waiting to guide us back home. And I thank you all for joining today. I wish you a smooth and peaceful transition into this next cycle of being, whether it's the new year ahead or whatever other transition you may be working with at this moment. Thank you all so much for joining. I'll see you again soon. Have a beautiful day ahead. See you next time.